Joining me on the morning drive is Perry Little.
Hey, Carl, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. You're the president CEO
Yep.
of Green River Gold,
Yes.
but the story is about much more than gold.
Yeah.
All right.
We're an accidental nickel prospect is what we are. So I'll give you a quick background on it. We back in 2019, we started the company up in 2017, and we gradually staked. We have a private company that's in Quesnel that we run, and Quesnel is a town of about 23,000 people, and we sort of got into the placer mining business and realized there was a bit of money to be made supplying the placer miners there. So we got involved in the gold community, and after a while we found a really nice property to stake right beside the old Barkerville gold mines, with the intention that we were right on the gold trend, and that was what we'd be after. And we ran around for a couple of years trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. We ended up doing a magnetic survey, and the magnetic survey kind of opened our eyes because there was one corner of it where there were some old nickel showings and a talc deposit that had been pretty extensively studied in the 1980s, and we had picked that up almost as an afterthought. It was contiguous to the gold property. We shot the mag survey and realized that we've got a 14 kilometer length of really strong magnetic image, and we've drilled 42 holes in it now, and every one of them hits nickel right from the surface of the bedrock. So yeah, well, we've morphed into a nickel story.
Nickel is a very marketable story right now, Perry.
Yeah, and we're not that opportunistic. That wasn't really what it kind of fell into our lap, really.
Yeah.
So it is a marketable story, and that's a great thing, and we're happy that it's a hot nickel market. It's kind of funny when we got out there and drilled. Just tell you a funny anecdote, if I could. When we got the magnetic image, it showed a strong magnetic image coming off of part of the area where there's this big talc deposit. Now talc sells for about $270 US per milled ton. It's the stuff talcum powder comes out of, but it's actually used mostly in ceramics and plastics and pulp and paper and whatever. So we couldn't figure out why there's a magnetic image coming off this talc body, because we know that it ranges anywhere from 50% talc down up to 90% talc, right? It seems like an odd thing to get a magnetic image of. Well, it turns out there's a bunch of nickel right in with the talc, which is rather interesting. But when we started drilling it, I got to tell you, the biggest fluke, we had the old records from the 1980s, and some of their geolocation stuff wasn't the best. So we looked up the coordinates for the one hole they had drilled, and it had us about 3 hours the other side of Prince George from where we are. So we were basically going from old diagrams and drawings, and there's a crook in the creek here, and there's a big tree, and a couple of rocks over this way. We wanted to figure out where they had drilled from in the 80s. So we went to where we thought they had drilled from, and this is where it gets weird. We drilled our first hole, went down 60 feet, realized that we had nickel along with the talc, and went, yeehaw, this is pretty cool. And then we drilled the second hole, and we went at 45 degrees, and at about 42 feet down, we actually intersected the hole that the guys had drilled vertical in the 1980s. Okay, so if you can imagine that, you got a 1 1/4 inch drill core, and you hit another 1 1/4 inch hole randomly. We didn't even know if we were drilling off the same outcrop because the geolocation data was so spotty, we actually struck their hole, which is, I don't know what that is in terms of odds, but it's probably quadrillion to 1 shot, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, what turned out was we got a bunch of nickel along with talc in that part of the deposit. Most of the 14 kilometers doesn't have that talc. That's one corner of the project, which could be a lucrative sort of a side show, if you will. We could have a talc mine that produces nickel, which is pretty cool.
So what's the company focusing on right now?
We're focused on a zone that is actually about 8 kilometers away from where the talc is. The nickel grades were a little bit higher there, and it's pretty consistent actually all the way along. So we've drilled off of 2 large outcrops. They're great big hills of nickel-bearing rock, basically, and they stick up out of the ground. They look kind of like my head with a few spruce trees sticking out of it. So it's Zone 2 has got slightly higher grades than nickel, and it's got easy access. The access to this property is unbelievable. So we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, that's where the focus is right now. We're drilling a bunch of holes. We got a few more to drill with the Winky drill. We're going to bring a deeper drill in, or a bigger drill, and go deeper. The deepest we've gone down so far is 128 meters, and we finished in mineralization in that hole. So we don't really know how deep this thing goes, but we're drilling out these two great big hills. So you know, it's easy access. We're about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the traffic. No, kidding. Depending on the weather, from the town of Quesnel, which is 23,000 people. We're just off the highway on a major logging road, and that logging road actually parallels the border of our property where the nickel is. Okay. So we never have to build an access road more than a few kilometers to get to.
So you've got the infrastructure, and that's a key element to your story?
Absolutely key element to our story. Quesnel's got 23,000 people, an airport. The rail line runs through there. Highway 97 runs through there. We've got a great big shop that our private company actually runs, that has an overhead crane on it. We can manufacture gold mining equipment, whatever. Matter of fact, that's what we do. But we've got access to that shop. Green River rents a little bit of space in that shop and has a great big sign on the building. So a lot of people think it's a Green River building. That's fine. So
infrastructure, you're saying, is top notch. To if you have a deposit and it's mineable, they don't have to build hydro and roads. Yeah,
hydro actually is wonderful as well. There's already power lines running along the highway that we're just down from, but Osisko is in the process of building a gold mine on the property adjacent to us. So we're still excited about the gold. We're just putting it on the back burner for a little bit.
You want to focus on nickel?
Where I want to focus on nickel, but Osisko, by virtue of building a large gold mine next door to us, is putting through a 3-phase power line that'll run within about 15 kilometers of our property. So the power, which is already there, will be better and very accessible. So yeah, we got power, we got people, we've got we never have to build a person camp up there and have people flying in and out, right? Everybody can live in their town. We put them on a crew bus in the morning and send them up there.
Yeah,
that's it. So
tell me more about the Winkle drill and the costs associated. Maybe, do you know your cost per meter right now?
It's a little hard to pinpoint because we've only poked a few holes, and it was a bit of fit and start. We started using the Winky drill, and they're kind of finicky old things. They were designed, I think, back in the 50s, and the gentleman that designed them is I think in Manitoba Mining Hall of Fame. He sold these things all over the world. He invented a lot of stuff, actually. His last name was Wink, so he named it after himself. So that's where the silly name comes from. They're sort of semi-portable, and they're a little underpowered, and you normally can't get down as deep as we have. We basically refurbished one and outfitted it to go deeper, but the first little bit we were using the standard Winky drill, and then we took it back to the shop and said, okay, we got to do something different with this thing. So our guys are pretty creative, so they basically redesigned a Winky drill, and we get a lot more power out of it. We're not going to use that for deep holes, obviously. I think in the current configuration, we might be able to get down 150 meters with this thing. We stopped at 128 meters in that hole, not because we ran out of power, because we were drilling in the winter, which we can do up there. It dropped down to about minus 30, and if you've ever tried working outside at minus 30, nothing works at minus 30.
Water freezes up.
People break, machines break. Yeah.
Other than temperature, you could mine there all year round.
Yeah,
until
exactly.
It gets too cold. Basically.
Yeah, we're good to about minus 10. It's actually very good, and like I said, the access road we have to plow is pretty short. The other roads are maintained year round. So
okay, tell me a little bit about the technical team that heads off this work, and what's their experience? Where are they from?
Yeah, well, on the capital market side, I guess you got me and one advisor to our board who's got a lot of experience in capital markets, and that always helps. I'm an ex-stockbroker, and I did a lot of junior stuff for many, many years. On the geological side, we have a gentleman who's, I don't want to age him, he's a little younger than me. Most people that are still living are younger than me. But Steve Kosas has been up in that area probably for the last 40 years, or primarily in that area for the last 40 years. I don't think there's another geologist who has the knowledge of surface geology, at least that Steve does. He's done a lot of placer work and a lot of, but he really understands the regional geology of the area.
Yeah.
And then we have a young dynamo by the name of Tyler Tian, who approached us. Actually, he was doing some work up there and asked if we needed some work done, and we got lucky with this one. He's a workhorse and technically excellent, and giving us great guidance. So we've got Tyler whenever we need him. He actually has a little bit of office space that he's renting right in our building. So we actually have Tyler right there when he's from the Lower Mainland here, but he's up in Quesnel a lot, and when he's there, he has office space with us, so that works out well. So that's our geologist. We have a young man who's, I shouldn't talk ages here, he's in his later 30s, just a quality guy who catches on to everything I've ever seen him do. He can learn anything in a minute. Kyle Townsend, and Kyle is our mine manager and our everything, basically. Kyle is a very key component of this team. He's been here at the mining conference, and he's been impressing a few people, actually. He's just quick on his feet. You can't throw anything at him mechanically, geologically, whatever, that he can't figure out in a few minutes. He's just an incredible individual. So Kyle is our other guy that really drives the whole process, because we're doing a lot of the exploration work ourselves, and that wouldn't be possible without having a guy like him. Anything breaks, it can find a way to get it fixed in a heartbeat.
Is there anything about the properties that we haven't covered?
Yeah, basically it's sort of a multi-commodity threat. I mean, we've got the gold, we've got the gold. We're on the trend with the gold, and we're right beside a gold mine, so that's great. We've got a silver property down near Invermere I haven't even mentioned as well. That's about 15 square kilometers. It's got a bunch of old artisanal silver mines on it, so we're going to focus on that eventually. But the property, the main property, I think it's the numerous metals that are in there. We're relatively low grade, but it's 0.19% nickel, it's 0.01% cobalt. We've got 21% magnesium. We're just waiting for some metallurgical work to see how much of that we could hopefully recover. The nickel is 97.8% in the form of pentlandite, which is easy to recover through using froth flotation. So that's the type, if you're going to have nickel sulfides, that's what you want, is pentlandite, and most of ours is pentlandite.
So that's great class 1, grade 1 nickel?
Yeah, and we'd be able to separate it easily, and hopefully recoveries would be good. I just want to give you a parallel project if I can, and that's there's a company called Giga Metals that I've been watching for a long time, and they have a similar grades, similar metallurgy from what we could see so far, and these guys have been going for a long time. They've proven up a lot of ore, and they are 12 and a half hours north of Quesnel, so they're close to a small town called Dease Lake, and they've got an airstrip there, and obviously they're in a different sort of world as far as infrastructure goes. But I like the project regardless, and it's big, and it's got a lot of nickel and some cobalt on it. Not terribly high grades, and a lot of people have questioned it over the years. It's interesting that a company as knowledgeable and as diverse as Mitsubishi would get involved in that project. That's exactly what happened in August of this past year. Mitsubishi basically stepped up to the plate and acquired 15% of Giga Metals' Turn-Again project for $8 million, which would put a value of about 50 some odd million on the property, just based on that valuation. I think Giga's running a good thing up there, but we've got similar grades, similar metallurgy, much closer to infrastructure. So I think we might be able to get some interest in this one as well. It all comes down to economics, right? I mean, it's you can have wonderful grades, but they're down too deep, or the veins are too narrow, or you're too far from infrastructure. Having an economic mine depends on an awful lot of factors, and I think we have a lot of those factors going for us.
Okay, so what's the so how much money's in the till right now?
We finished a financing at the end of December. We brought in a little over $500,000 in flow through, and a little over $100,000 in hard dollars, and we spent a bit of that. We have some sort of hidden assets on the balance sheet. We've got, when we originally started, I mentioned we were talking about doing placer mining. So we have 26 square kilometers of placer claims on some great creeks, and we've got those are all basically we rent them out to other miners, but at this point that's all for sale. So we'll bring in a few $100,000 from that when we sell it off, and we're talking to people about it now. And then we've got we don't want to fire sale the stuff when we don't need to, but it's yesterday's asset. It's what the company was going to be, not what the company is.
Yeah.
So we're getting rid of that. We've also got a couple $100,000 worth of old mining equipment, not old mining equipment, mining equipment that we manufactured that we're going to sell as part of the original business plan of the company, and that's all for sale as well. So we've got that sort of sitting in the kitty that doesn't really show up anywhere.
So the plan is to go drilling with what you have now, see what the results are, and finance later, or is there a financing on the table imminently?
If somebody came to us with the right deal and the right amount of money, I'd think about it. If we could bring in the right partner, we'd consider doing something sooner. But we have enough money to go for a while here yet, and so I can't say there's anything really imminent. It's interesting when you're at these mining conferences, just how many people you do talk to, though, and at this point, nothing imminent. But
okay,
if we could do the right deal for the right hard dollars, I'd consider it, just to shore up the balance sheet a little further and give us a bit more money. We're debating on just how many long holes to drill and whatever. We'll do some trenching on both Zone 1 and Zone 2 this year as well, and that'll allow us to do much more broad-based metallurgical tests, and we're waiting on metallurgical stuff. Don't get me started on that one, but we are waiting on some metallurgical tests that we hope will be ready for us by the time the PDAC conference happens in early March. And
yeah, that's good. We're about to. I think we've covered pretty much everything here. Is there anything you want to? You feel like we need to go over?
No, not really. I think we've covered most of it. I'm excited by this project. I can tell you that much. I sure as heck didn't expect to be looking for nickel at this point, but you can't. You have to stay flexible and opportunistic in business. And when we saw what we had on that magnetic image, the game kind of changed for us all of a sudden. Right?
Yeah.
So 14 kilometers long. Half a kilometer to a kilometer wide, and we don't know how deep yet, but that adds up. You can do the math in your head. That's an awful lot of tonnage.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hopefully you have some news out before PDAC, because we'll be there. We'd love to get an update on the company.
Yeah.
And a little more direction on where you're going, because you'll be. Are you drilling right now?
We'll be starting up with the Winky drill again fairly soon. We had most of our team, including our main guy, Kyle, here with us in Vancouver.
Right.
And I don't like to leave the drillers out there without Kyle to lean on. As I mentioned, he's our fallback guy. He can fix anything in a heartbeat if anything goes wrong. He's always got a solution. He's just got a great head on his shoulders. So,
So come here, market the story, get back, probably do some drilling, get some results out from the on the engineering side of things.
Yeah.
And then kind of see where you're going to go. And if someone comes to the table with the right amount of money at the right price, you'll take it and build it out.
Exactly. I should say one thing is that the holes we've drilled, they're shallow holes. The deepest one's 128 meters and finished in mineralization. But 42 holes, half of them on Zone 1, half of them on Zone 2. They're two large outcrops. They're 8 kilometers apart. So that this, we've tested, not both ends of this 14 kilometers, but a good part of it. And every one of those holes hits nickel, magnesium, cobalt, and some chromium in the first meter. Like, there's no overburden. As soon as the drill goes into the bedrock, it looks the same in the first meter as it does in the 50th meter. And that's the same in every hole. It's remarkably consistent.
Good.
So, yeah.
Well, Perry.
Hey. It's been a blast. Thank you.
I wish you nothing but the best. And like I said, hopefully you got some news out before PDAC. We can get an update from you. Cool little story. Your brother is Billy Little.
Yep.
My wife's cousin is Steve West. They both played for the Oshawa Generals, so they're alumni mates, but they missed each other by 4 years. And your brother played with Bobby Orr for 4 of them.
Played with Bobby for 4, and then got traded to Niagara Falls and finished his career playing with Derek Sanderson and some other legends down there. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to the Oshawa Generals and their alumni. They do very well for their alumni. And that's about it. So hopefully we hear something from you around PDAC, Perry.
Sounds great. I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah,
Take care.
Take care, man.